I'd like to welcome everybody to the Opening webinar. Today is April 19th, 2011. And by the way, my name is Todd Maxwell with the Opening Technical Sales. Along with me is Chris Wilson, who's part of the Opening sales team. So what is today's webinar about? It's about creating snapshots and how to retrieve the data from scheduled and unscheduled snapshots. Snapshots are widely used. As we go into this, we'll demonstrate how create the snapshot from the volumes and understanding the snapshots in the beginning, so that way you get a general idea of where some of the documentation is for deeper knowledge of the snapshots. Also, what we're going to do is assign the snapshots to the volumes for fiber channel, iSCSI, and NAS volumes. Then we'll go ahead and set up how to do scheduled snapshots and even unscheduled snapshots. And then what we could do after that, we'll see how we can access the snapshots via for your fiber channel, iSCSI volumes, and NAS volumes. So let's go ahead and close this down. And where I want to take you first is a documentation about snapshots that I think everybody needs to see. If we go to the Opening main website, if we go click on Libraries, and by the way, we mentioned where all the webcasts and videos are stored. You'll see them all here. It's webcasts and videos, and if you click on them, you'll see a plethora of all the videos that are here containing all the webinars. Now going back, what we want to do is go to Libraries, How-To Resources, and here you'll see on the first listing is called Opening Snapshots. Where I want to take you is to this one right here. It says Description of the Opening Snapshots. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the pages here because really the whole demonstration is to really show you. But I really want to be able to take you to about 2 pages that are very important. I think you should all review. This gives you the basic snapshot definition, but really the page 3 right down here is where I really want to focus on today's topic. You can find obviously more definitions of the explanations above the paragraph in the following pages. But when we talk about snapshots, I mean, you're able to really retrieve the data in case, let's say you have a virus where you want to go back to a point in time, and snapshots are valuable to have so that way you can copy your data off from, let's say, a fiber channel or iSCSI volume, or you want to reference to a NAS volume that maybe a snapshot was taken the previous day and somebody made a mistake or overwritten a file on that following day. And so this way you can go ahead and grab that file without having issues for any modifications that took place today. So if yesterday was a snapshot, I can go ahead and retrieve that data and therefore be able to have that time reference of that file. So really the main question is, a lot of people ask, well, how do I calculate the size of a reserve snapshot for my volume? Well, really, there's really 2 methods, but the one we're going to talk about here, and I'll explain the second one, is a good rule of thumb is to estimate the amount of expected data changes when the snapshot will be active. So let's say 2 or 3 times the size. So for example, if you have a volume of 100 gig or 1 terabyte, and that could be NAS, iSCSI, or fiber channel, and what we want to do is reserve space for a daily snapshot that we expect about 10 gigabyte of changes every day. Now, it could be varied. It could be, 10 meg a day or 100 meg. But for this case, we'll just say there's going to be 10 gigabyte of changes every day. So the reserve snapshot, we should schedule it 2 to 3 times, which equates to 20 to 30 gig size of the snapshot. So really, if on a 1 terabyte, that's 3% of the whole volume that you have that you want to create your snapshot for. Now, some will go higher. If you're not sure about the amount of sizes, let's say it could be 20% or even higher. Some engineers will place that between 12 to 15% of the total size of the volume. So in that case, you would have either a 100 gig or a 200 gig snapshot, depending upon the amount of changes. If they're massive, then you might want to apply a larger snapshot. So that's a good rule to look for, and you can always reference to this page on page 3. Now on page 4 in this documentation, the snapshot is based on the logical volume manager. So this is all located in reference to our volume manager where you create the logical volumes. This is really simple how you create the snapshots, and we're going to demonstrate that. I do want to reference that the snapshots is a copy on write, or what's called HAL, And it implements on the entire block devices by copying the change blocks just before they are overwritten to the storage. So thus preserving a self-consistent paste image of that block device. So the file systems on this can later be mounted as if they were read-only medium. Now, there's a lot of questions. How many snapshots can be created? Literally, you can create hundreds. Now, where the trick is how many do you have actively going off at the same time or scheduled at the same time? So there are some limitations. Typically, most of the DSSV6 products are in 64-bit mode. And if you are in 64-bit mode, I would say probably about over 90% of the DSS products today worldwide are in 64-bit mode, and very few are in 32-bit mode, and typically a lot of them are updating to 64-bit mode. So how many snapshots can you place with the DSSV6 in 64-bit mode? Typically we say 10 per logical volume, so you can have 10 snapshots created for each logical volume, or 20 per system, and that's actively going off at the same time. So that's a lot of snapshots if you think about it. Let's say you have this 20 snapshots actively in the task manager, kicked off at that particular time, for let's say 1 hour. Then you could have another 20 and another 20, another 20. As you go on with the documentation, you can see there's really a lot of deep level information, some of the descriptions, the file level description of the snapshot, information about when snapshots, when they start, when they stop, how is the space reserved. So for this demonstration, I really don't want to get too deep into this because the documentation is already here for your reference. But as you see, as you go down into deeper levels of this documentation, we do provide a plethora of information to reference to. So with this, let's go ahead and start with our snapshot demonstration with the DSSV6. So over here on the left, I have a DSSV6 using the latest build, which is 5217. And what we're going to do is go right into the configuration in Volume Manager and Volume Groups. And I have some units available here, but for right now we're going to be working with unit S001. And here's my volume group 00 that I've created. Now I've already created 3 logical volumes, one being a NAS logical volume, an iSCSI logical volume, and a fiber channel volume. Now there's data already on these that I've already created. There's no reason to go ahead and waste everybody's time because I think most of us know how to create a logical volume. If not, I'll just briefly go over it very simply. If we scroll down, you'll see that there's an action bar that allows me to create 3 different types, actually 4 different types of logical volumes. So a NAS, iSCSI, fiber channel, and snapshot. And this allows me to create new volumes, and I can create as many as I want in many different environments that require probably all 3 of them for file and block base. So what we'll do is we're going to create our first snapshot. We're going to deal with NAS. I think that's a big popular topic, and I want to make sure everybody understands it before we go on to the iSCSI and fiber channel. So let's go ahead and create our new snapshot volume. And remember, we talked about what is the typical size. So if I have, in this case, I'm not going to be really worried about 2 to 3 times the amount of changes. But if I were, I would probably take something in the form of, maybe I would go in 10% of the total size. So in this case, let's just make a 5 gig snapshot. So if we were to take a new snapshot, and then we're going to assign it to LV000, which is the NAS volume. Let's just put 5 gig in there for now. You can always increase the snapshot volume. So as long as it's not in a task, you can always increase the snapshot. And we can show that real quick here. And once the snapshot is loaded up into the volume manager, you'll see it denoted as the snap 000. So as it builds it, here we see it, the 000, the 5 zeros here. And then we know that it's a NAS snapshot because it denotes it here. And also you'll see it noted here with the check mark that's assigned to this logical volume LV000. If If I ever wanted to increase that NAS snapshot, I can easily do so by just going Modify, Snap 00, and let's increase it by 2 gig. And this will update the snapshot volume that we've created from 5 gig to 7 gig. So I just wanted to show you that you can always increase your snapshots within our volume manager. Alright, now that we have our snapshot created, it is assigned to the NAS logical volume. We also know down here that it also is a snapshot definition assigned for that NAS volume, but you can change it on the fly. So for this purpose, we'll leave it at LV00. Now for NAS, it's a little different. So let's look at for NAS, we want to go to Configuration and NAS Resources. Here I have a share. So when you have a share, what you want to do before you create your snapshot volume, you want to make sure that you go into the maintenance snapshot. Now explain why. If you try to create the snapshot now, let's create snapshot backup, this one I've already created, and I assign a specified path, which I do want to associate with the snapshot volume. So here the path shows snapshot 0. It will not take. Watch. Here's the error. It needs to be mounted. So we have to mount the snapshot before we can apply the share name to the snapshot. So how do we do this? What we do is we go to Maintenance, Snapshot. Here we see the snapshot 0000, its size. And let's go ahead and do this manually. And we'll start the action button. Now what you're going to see in a few seconds here is that it's going to update with the activity in the start. Here it comes. And now we see the start time. Now I can go back into the configuration, NAS resources, and NAS shares. And let's put our snapshot share name in there. So we'll call this snap backup. Specify the path, which we want to take the snapshot 000, the volume that we've created, and hit apply. Now we don't receive the error, and we see the snapshot backup. At this point, what we want to do is make sure that you have access to the data, and let's verify that before we look at our snapshot. I brought up a Windows 2003 server, and here we have using a remote desktop. Let's go ahead and just log into the NAS share. Here you can see automatically it populated on the map drive. We see that we have data here in the share called data that we have. Now, if you notice, I can't access it. Well, I could if I had a username and password associated, but for simple terms, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead, click on the snap backup share that we've created, assign guest and anyone without password. All right, now what we'll do is we'll go back to the Windows 2003 server. Let's bring this over. And here we see our data that we can copy our data from. So we have now taken that snapshot and we can copy and paste it anywhere we wish. So let's go back and talk a little bit about the snapshot now. So here if we go to the maintenance and snapshot, we see that we really have an unscheduled snapshot. So you really don't need to schedule, but why would you schedule? In many cases, the snapshot schedule, let's go ahead and stop this. And if you stop it, the data will be unavailable from the Windows 2003 server. Now, here we have our snapshot schedule, snap 0000. And what we want to do is let's explain and talk about this. Snapshot is a point in time, okay? So think of it like taking a photograph from your camera. It is a point in time picture. Now, a continuous snapshot is not what we do. There would be something, let's say you have a video camera and you're recording all the events that take place, more so like a backup. In the snapshot, let's say I want to take a snapshot for Tuesday at, let's see, right now we're in Eastern time, so it would be 2, so it's 1400 hours. It's 2:17 now. We'll go 2:19 with no end time. Now what that means is, if we look down here, it'll create the schedule. Give it a second. Now, we've created the schedule called Weekly Tuesday. It's going to start at 4:19 today, which is at 2:19. Currently, we're at 2:18. What this means is that every Tuesday at 2:19, the snapshot will start, and it will remain available for until the next Tuesday, and so forth and so forth. So when you leave it with no end time, that means the snapshot will always be available into the next scheduled snapshot, which is weekly, the way we have it, every Tuesday. So if you think that it's a continuous snapshot, it is not. So if we were to look at the state of the snapshot, let's go back into data and refresh it. Let's make sure that the snapshot schedule kicked off. And here we have our snapshot. It's in use. And now the snapshot is available. So what it did is if you had data during the time of the snapshot, let's say 4 minutes ago, then the snapshot would take that new data and it would update that data, and it would remain there until the next following Tuesday of next week at 2:19. So your snapshot will always be there. There's a question that says, does it automatically overwrite and leave the latest snapshot? Well, think of it this way. If the next snapshot, let's say on the next Tuesday, and it presents, let's say there's some data being changed. Let's say we add some new data. Let's copy this back on. And let's just put it into a new directory. Actually, let's go in here to the top directory of data. Now the snapshot is still running. Okay? So here what we're going to do is let's say we added some new files. And we copied our files in there. Snapshot is still running. That means those files in the snapshot will not be shown until the next snapshot is created. And yes, it will overwrite that snapshot. So let's go ahead and test that theory. Okay, so now we have this snapshot running. Let's go ahead and delete that snapshot, or let's stop it right now. And what we'll do is we'll create another snapshot schedule for Tuesday. Let's go ahead and give it the screen a second here. And right now it is 2:21. Let's go to 22 and see if it, hopefully I'm not within a few seconds. I'm kind of fighting time, but I think you'll get the understanding here. And what we'll see in a few seconds is, let's refresh the screen. Snapshot is gone. And once it kicks off on its scheduled time, we should see the new data that we added during the time of this snapshot that was scheduled versus the new one that will kick off momentarily. Then that data will be overwritten with the new snapshot of the new data that we have written to the share called data, or for that logical volume. If we had many shares, okay, it would still grab all those shares in that data. So if we had, as we wait for the snapshot to schedule it off, we can create another share, and that snapshot will contain all the shares that are created in here. So you'll have data, test, and what other shares. So all the shares will be contained in that snapshot. And here, let's just make sure that we can access it and apply it. Now let's go back to our Windows 2003, refresh it. There's our snapshot, and there's data, and there are our new files that we've added for the snapshot volume that we've created. So it will override it as the next scheduled snapshot. So that was a good question. So now let's go back and talk about a little bit more of the scheduling. So if we go back to maintenance and into Snapshot, let's go ahead and stop this. Now we give you a good representation of how to work the snapshot schedule. Again, you don't have to do schedules, and by the way, the tasks are here. So next Tuesday they will be running. You can have, as you can see, multiple tasks running for the snapshot. You want to make sure that they're not overlapping too much. You want to, if that's the case, when you create many snapshots like that, maybe you create more than one snapshot volume. Snap 000, 0001, 002, and so forth and so forth. For this purpose, what you could do, just so that way you're saving on snapshot space and capacity, is if let's take a look at every week we have a snapshot. So we can say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're going to do a snapshot at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, and we will stop at 6 p.m. Actually, that would be, let's go ahead, 1800 hours, and that's when the snapshot will stop. So from 12 to 1800 hours, you'll have access to the snapshot Monday through Friday. Now, the beginning of the week we consider in all scheduled snapshots are from Monday. Now, if we were to look every even week, okay, how that works is it's calculated for, let's say, the second week of the month, the fourth week. So it's scheduled out for the week. So it'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so forth. So for every even week, that's how the schedule will be scheduled out. If it's every odd week, it would be the odd weeks of the years of the week, the weeks of the year. So that would be week 1, week 3, week 5, 7, 9, and so forth and so forth. So keep in mind that when you create your snapshots, you can do very different ways. You can have a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday snapshot. You could schedule it with a, let's say, a start time and with no end time. So if we were to schedule this one for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to start at 12 p.m. in the afternoon, let's say every even week, then what we could do is we could create another snapshot that if we wanted to for Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then if we create that at, let's say, 12 with no end time, that would mean that on Monday, the snapshot at 12 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon will be taken. Wednesday, when that schedule comes on at 12 o'clock, it'll overwrite Mondays from the period from the changes of Monday through Wednesday, and vice versa for the same representation for Friday. If the snapshot for Friday were to be scheduled, it would take the snapshot from the time of Wednesday till Friday, and it will maintain that access until the next Monday or the following next day of the snapshot, Monday. And of course, Tuesday and Thursday and so forth. So pretty much that's how easy and simple the snapshots work and provide the availability for you to access the data from the snapshot. So you can create many different snapshots. Also, I'd like to mention that snapshots, if you're using backup, any backup features or the data replication, snapshot is needed. Many times I've caught customers using the same snapshot for their backup device, because backup requires snapshot, so does the data replication. And what happens is that they forget over a period of time and they're using the same snapshot and it's scheduled for a pre-scheduled snapshot of, let's say, a NAS logical volume, and they have errors. So what I recommend is you dedicate the snapshot for backup and data replication. All right, let's go ahead and close these out. And now let's show what the iSCSI and Fiber channel can do. So let's go back to our volume manager. And what we'll do here is we'll create a snapshot for the iSCSI. I've already created a block.io iSCSI volume. And here we're going to create a new snapshot. We're going to assign it to LV001, which is our iSCSI volume, denoted here. And we'll just use the same amount, 10 gig. just to simplify it. And once this is created, you're going to see, again, denoted right next to the iSCSI volume that there'll be a check mark with snapshot associated with it, and then you'll see another new snapshot volume being created. So then, of course, it'll denote it with the icon and state that it's for iSCSI. And what we'll do right now, and there it is, and for this purpose, what we'll do is we'll show that down here on the bottom, you can always reassign it, but it just simplifies it in one step. When you create the snapshot volume, it can be all done here. So here I want to show you that I do have an iSCSI target. Now let's go to the iSCSI target manager. Here's my target 0. And now you see that I have my target already working. I have my LUN set to default 0. I'm going to be using the Windows 2003 server for today's demonstration. And of course I have my snapshot. I'll go ahead and enable my snapshot. And let's go to the Windows 2003 server and verify that we do see our volume. Here's my iSCSI volume, which is drive G. Let's put this over here. Now G has no data at all, so let's go ahead and put some data on the drive G. In fact, let's use what we copied here from the snapshot, from the NAS volume. We'll copy the data over here. Now, the iSCSI volume is drive G. So here, how do we be able to take a snapshot from the iSCSI volume? If you look at our disk manager, we really only see I created a fiber channel volume and the iSCSI volume. So now let's look at creating the snapshot for iSCSI. Now we've enabled it here. Let's go ahead and go into maintenance, snapshot. Here you see the snapshot 001 and it's unused. Again, I can create a snapshot schedule. We'll go ahead and do that for simplicity terms. Actually, we'll just go ahead and apply the manual. Give it a second. And what we should see on the Windows 2003 server, once this comes up, and verify, here we go. Now let's go on to our Windows 2003 system, and you notice instantly that in the computer management for Windows 2003 under disk management, that it immediately picked up the same size volume because it doesn't know how to differentiate because we're dealing at the volume level. So here you'll see the same size, but what you will have to do is assign a drive letter. So let's go ahead and add a drive letter. We'll give this one F. I thought I did that. Let's try it again. And let's check it. And there's F. And that's our snapshot. So G is our iSCSI volume that we've created, and it's our target. And F is the snapshot volume of G. So here you have this. It's the same size, and you see the representation. So if you look at this, then you'll be able to extract the data that you need and copy it and utilize it. We'll go ahead and just take a snapshot of that so you can see. We can, let's say, use our fiber channel volume, and we can copy our data there. So that's very useful when you need to take some backups or be able to get some data off your snapshots, and that'll be left open until the next scheduled snapshot. So again, if we go back into the stop the snapshot, the data will not be available at that point in time. So let's give it a second. And there it is, it's gone. So when you schedule your snapshots, remember, create a start time. If you need it there for 24 hours, you can have it for every day or for every other week. And you can create multiple snapshots. Okay, so let's go back into our volume groups. And now let's go ahead and create fiber channel. So here I've got a fiber channel volume that I've created. And what we're going to do is we'll create another snapshot. We're going to assign this to LV0002, which is our fiber channel volume. Now this size I've got 100 gig, so again, we're even 4 gig is plenty, but depending upon how many changes you expect it to make. So for simplicity reasons, we'll just go with another 10 gig and hit apply, and then of course it'll update for the snapshot definition down on the bottom. And while this is being created, a lot of people will ask, well, how do I know what's being used in the snapshot volume, or what's the capacity that I'm using for the size? How do I know it's not filled up? Things of this nature. Again, typically the snapshot, you're not going to be able to find very much information in the logical volume statistics, because this is really related to the NAS volumes, and iSCSI is very difficult because it's block device. So what you really want to be able to go is right into the maintenance snapshot and be able to look at the sizes here. So if we start our iSCSI, it'll tell you what's in use versus the changes that we've made. So it's really 1%. It's a very small amount that you're going to be using that much of the snapshot, because it's the pointers that you will see for the data. Okay, now let's go into the fiber channel. What I want to do is go into configuration, into the fiber channel target manager, and go to the groups. Now I've created basically what's called a private group. The default is just a global group for fiber channel, which allows everybody to access that volume. But what I've done was create a private group associated with a worldwide node name alias. And this is important. All I did here was, on creating the alias, for many of you who don't know, is that I created any type of name, and of course I need the worldwide node name. Which, how was I able to get that? Well, very simply, when I create that, I want to be able to get what's called that node name, which is this number associated from the Windows 2003 server. So here, if we were to look at Sans Surfer, pull it up for the QLogic, we'll give it a second or two. Where I found that was the fiber channel host bus adapter. If you look at it, either whatever port you're using, I'm using port 1, and in port 1 I was able to obtain this node name. So once I copied that, I put that into my alias configuration and whatever alias name I want to use. So if you look at 20000XX45, here you see 21000X45. So X meaning all the other numbers in between. So once I created that, then my private group will specifically be used for that HBA that's on that Windows 2003 server. Okay, so now I have to enable the snapshot once I've assigned it with the associated target group here. So we'll go ahead and enable it by clicking on the plus sign. Now this will allow me for my snapshot schedule to be taken for this, to allow my Windows 2003 server to be able to access the information from the snapshot. Now, there's also good documentation that we have, especially for databases, how to use our API functionality to stop and start snapshots. So if we go to maintenance and snapshots, here we see snap 002. And let's go ahead and schedule it. Just go ahead and do a manual snapshot, because we've already talked about the scheduling. Scheduling is really simple, and you can create many different schedules for your snapshots. We currently still have our iSCSI snapshot running. Now remember, even if I put data into the iSCSI right now, while we're waiting for the fiber channel to load up the snapshot, if I were to take E, which is actually G right here, which is our iSCSI volume, and I were to place new data on there. So if I were to take some files here and copy on G, the snapshot that we have that's currently working for that G for the iSCSI will not be updated. So let's take a look, and so that way you understand that until the next scheduled snapshot will then the data be updated. So we'll go ahead and add our drive letter. And H is our drive, and you see the data has not been updated. Only until the next scheduled snapshot will we see all the data. So before we do the fiber channel, let's take a look. So this is our iSCSI one that we've created. Let's stop it and restart it. And at the same time, while that's running, let's verify that the fiber channel snapshot is running. Here we go. So this is the fiber channel. You notice that it's about 100 gig. Let's go ahead and spread this down a little further. So we have the fiber channel volume here, which is about 100 gig, and here we see the same amount. We'll go ahead and assign a drive letter, H, and now let's go take a look at H. So you see the snapshot that we created and the data that we copied. If you remember, we copied this from the NAS. Then what we did was copy the data over to the iSCSI, and we also copied the data to the fiber channel. When the fiber channel snapshot was scheduled to take off that we just created, then of course you see the snapshot that we have here with all the data in it. And of course, we just talked about, we added more data to the iSCSI, which is this one, which is referencing to drive G. We added new data to it. We should be able to see the new data now, because it would be like taking the next snapshot schedule. This way it will help you see in this drive I, and that's all the updated files that we created for that snapshot. So keep in mind that the snapshot, once it starts, okay, then at that point in time, if you add changes or new data or changes to the data, then the next scheduled snapshot, you will be able to access that information. That's pretty much it for the simplicity terms of the snapshots. And what I'd like to do is the last moment is to show you about that API command that we were talking about a few minutes ago. Let's go back to our website. We have a documentation here about snapshots. Remote snapshot control with API and DSS v6. This is very simple. The API functionality is easy to use. Again, this is basically you could use the Windows Open SSH for Windows, and of course setting the API configuration on DSS. And it's real simple to issue the snapshot task with the start and stop options right here. So we talk about where you can download the Windows SSH and how to configure it, and of course be able to enable the API functionality right in here. So let's take a look at it so that way everybody has an understanding of it. If we go to Setup Administrator, and if we scroll all the way down to right about on the bottom here, it says API configuration. This is where you would be able to set your ports. You can add an allow IP address. And by the way, there's many of the API commands, not just for the snapshot, but to create NAS logical volumes. We have now new ways to stop replications, to start replications. We have a plethora of information of API commands that we can offer you. And if you're not familiar of how to really start the API or configure it, right here on the question mark, you'll see some more information about how to set the allow IP, the port settings, the passwords, and of course generate security generated keys for the API. And this allows you, and of course you can set to get these keys and generate the download keys for more security reasons. You don't want to leave that open for everybody to start stopping or removing volumes or things of this nature. So bear that in mind. But this is where the API tool is used, and of course this documentation right here located under the how-to resources in libraries and how-to resources. So it's a good area for you all to look at.